issue with this conversation as a whole, because we're talking about so many different types of people. I mean, in and of itself, I find it fascinating that...
I'm talking about lesbians.
You're talking about...
I think the other people are not talking about women.
The examples that Bev and Ollie give are totally unrepresentative. Yes, they happen, and I condemn them, but they're not representative. Britain's biggest lesbian celebration, Lesbian Visibility Week, which took place in April, was inclusive of trans and non-binary women. It was celebrated by lesbians. Lesbians themselves wanted trans and non-binary people to be part of this celebration.
I'm not going to let you get away with this.
Bev, I listened to you without interruption. Can you please show courtesy, be polite and courteous? You know, those lesbian women who are behind Lesbian Visibility Week, they included trans and non-binary people with the support of the wider lesbian community. There are a small number of lesbians who disagree with this trend. I accept that. They're entitled to their point of view, but they're not representative of the wider lesbian community. I
want to come to James now. You wanted to jump in. Bev, we will come back to you. We will come back to you, Bev, but we're just going to the studio. James, you wanted to jump in or something. Now, and I just broadly have a question. Do you find this conversation is going to... Obviously, we're not going to find a solution or resolution, but is it useful to talk about?
No, it's not. I actually find it incredibly boring, and I think the stuff that Bev is spouting is transphobia, and I genuinely believe that it's kind of amusing that you're talking about homophobia, because really you're just being transphobic, and those two things don't cancel each other out. They are not helpful at all, and you're talking about children being indoctrinated. It's insanity. It's literally not happening. There's no proof of that happening. Ollie, you've just converted to the Catholic. You just converted to the Catholic Church. You're not concerning yourself with actual evidence.
What about children having double mastectomies?
Why are you bringing up conversations like that when you have not had that yourself?
I mean, can Ollie not speak to his personal experience?
Well, his personal experience is literally wanting to look like an Asian pop star. This is a great example. But we're not talking about banning BTS, are we?
I'm allowed to speak. This is a great example of woke people. You shout people down.
Thank you for calling me a woke person.
You know, talking of inclusivity, yes. What about including women in this conversation? What about including women in
Women are included in this conversation.
They're not, because trans
You've got one
activists...
right here suggesting that she supports LGBTQ+ people.
Let me speak. Trans activists are constantly pushing at women. Just yesterday at the Oxford Union, a trans activist glued themselves to the floor because they didn't want a woman to speak about women's rights. Is that fair? Do you think it's fair that women aren't allowed to have a conversation, that their movement is just suddenly hijacked? They can't do sports. They're scared to speak up. Athletes are scared to speak up in case they're deemed transphobic for saying the simple fact that biological men have a competitive advantage. We know that. So let's let women speak. Let's stop going on about what trans activists...
Talking of letting women speak, let's get out to Bev. Go on then, Bev.
Yeah, I want to say that first of all, we tried very hard to contact Stonewall when they changed, and when Stonewall changed, all the other organisations that had been gay rights groups around the country all changed to focus on gender identity. And we tried to get them to discuss the problems, but they wouldn't. We eventually had to form LGB Alliance, which goes back to the roots of standing up for sexual orientation. The second we formed LGB Alliance, Peter, and you can listen, please listen to this, we were deluged by messages from lesbians all over the world. Thank God you're here. I have felt so isolated. Thank God. When are you setting up in Canada? When are you setting up in Australia? Thank God. What can I do to help? And the reason that we were able to grow so quickly, we were just two women, two old dykes. Yes, we had no money. We had no external funding. And all this nonsense about right-wing funding it's complete nonsense. We were two women who worked our asses off 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. And for all these lesbians who contacted us, and they joined us, and we built a wonderful organisation of some of the cleverest,
let's give Peter a chance to respond,
people in the world.
Bev, you and I were both in the Gay Liberation Front in the early 1970s, and as you well know, prominent among the Gay Liberation Front activists were trans women like Carla and Rachel. They were prominent in our movement. They were featured in the Come Together newspaper. It was part of our wider movement. And just as we challenged premises that refused to serve lesbian, gay and bisexual people, we also had a very famous sit-in at a cafe in Piccadilly Circus which refused to serve trans people. We saw these two different struggles as being different, but also having communality, the common experience of prejudice, discrimination and hate
have you read
crime.
Stuart?
And we should stay together
Have you
now.
read-
We should stand up for each other
We are
and not
staying
divide.
together.
Yeah,
We're not
Bev,
staying
I'm-
together, Peter.
Bev, I'm very sorry.
I need to ask Peter. If he's read Stuart Feather's book, Blowing the Lid, which gives the history
you can ask
and has
Peter
a
that
chapter
on the
about those
DMs
people.
after the show. Unfortunately, we
I
are
think
fresh.
everybody should read it.
We are fresh out of time. Look, we really appreciate you joining the conversation this evening, and to our panelists in the studio as well. I've been fascinated by this, especially on the Eve of Pride Month, talking about division, but hopefully a bit more unity. It's been great to have all your insights. Thanks so much for your time.